Welcome to the PlayAbly podcast. This episode is brought to you by PlayAbly Ads, where we turn your marketing into an interactive, game-based experience that engages customers and boosts conversions. And here's something special. Mention this podcast when you book a free demo on our website, and you'll get your first month free. Visit playably.ai to learn more and schedule your demo. Welcome back to the PlayAbly podcast. Joining me once again is CEO and founder of PlayAbly, John Chang. Welcome, John.
Hey, everybody.
Today, we are diving into a very large topic, which is talking about gamification everywhere. Specifically, we started with Temu. Every time you go on the app, there's a wheel that you spin. You always get the same prize. That's not the only thing that they're doing, though.
Right. I think what's fascinating about Temu, especially given that Temu is the fastest growing commerce app ever, is deconstructing how they got there. Because if you think about their two levers, one of which is access to low priced, but sometimes low quality goods, which frankly you could get on lots of other platforms. The other I don't think is as well known is that Temu's parent company, Pinduoduo, is actually founded by a social game developer. So he comes from a free to play. He had a game studio that he shut down to start this. But you can see how that formed the basis of the design of the app itself. It very much comes from a place where not only are there spinners and everything else, but you'll see a lot of the specials have time limits on, or there are achievements that you can get as part of the app. While sometimes it seems like Temu has a more of a cheesy type customer experience, it actually matches really well with the types of products they're selling. He's really trying to drive an impulse by using a lot of these techniques that you'll see in free to play games that spur kind of a compulsion loop to get someone to do something, and they do it incredibly well. They're doing it across the world, which I also find really interesting, is how universal these psychological triggers are. Games kind of speak across culture, across language in terms of our desire to compete, our desire to have fun, and our desire when we're curious to learn more.
I mean, it makes sense that it came through gaming. I would think Temu was the only one that started the whole you can't buy from us unless you download the app and
Yeah.
do the purchase from the app so that most people won't remove the app. They'll be able to collect other data from you, depending on
Mhm.
what their tracking is, and be able to then target you and market to you more efficiently. Actually, gaming was the only time I ever downloaded random
Right.
apps. It would seem unsafe. I'd be like, oh, I want to play this game. I'll download it. I'm usually very careful. I don't download a lot of apps. I've
Right.
stayed away from having a lot of them, but gaming always got me. So I can see that connection there. When people think gamification in e-commerce, they think it's never going to happen. It's so ubiquitous and goes beyond just conversion.
I think what we at PlayAbly are so excited about is that even that silly spinner is the number one mechanism to get people to either buy or give you their email. But actually, where we're seeing gamification really take hold is in other strategic objectives important to your company and brand. As an example, learning about your customer base, their true desires and preferences is, from a planning and strategic perspective, the most important data you could have. Getting people to respond to surveys or similar tasks is not only inefficient, but often yields a skewed sample. But when
And people
people are
lie.
playing and people lie and then check this same box all the way down the line, and you don't get actually good data. But when you think about gamification, the number one thing is actually not conversion, it's engagement. What we are driving is engagement and interaction between the shopper and the app or the game. Because it's digital, there's the opportunity for you to respond to their actions. Warby Parker does a really good job of this. If you're designing glasses and have the opportunity to put it on your social media, they're showing their preference for what type of product they want, what colors are interesting, what they're looking forward to next season. That's great customer intelligence, right? Same with Starbucks. Their loyalty program is actually one of their key drivers in terms of product development, right? Looking at what and how people respond to the app, what they're choosing in the app is part of that interaction you can get really good organic preference information about your customer base that there's no other way to get. Not only are games everywhere, but I think what you use games for is, we're at the cusp of really opening up our minds as to how that engagement can be valuable in many different ways.
Last time we discussed driving brand affinity, being able to build the brand, but it's really a personal connection that you develop with the brand because you're on your own personal journey, whether it's through the
Yeah,
app or however else the company is responding to you. I think it speaks a lot to the human motivations of reward seeking, achievement, competition, and not only the increased engagement and getting repeat visits, but customer loyalty. I think we've seen that elsewhere, airline rewards programs.
I am never not shocked by how loyalty programs like airline rewards points and status are transparently the game structure. You earn different levels, like you get points for performing certain actions, you get rewards, and who hasn't walked down an airline aisle as you're boarding the plane, and these people are sitting in first class. These people are sitting in premium, and I'm sitting in economy. Wouldn't it be great if I could move up in status or get these other things? There's a mechanism in which I could do it for free.
And I think it appeals to everybody. I think
Yes.
you can game the system and strategize on it, or you could just get the most basic reward and feel really satisfied with it.
There is a strategy for everybody, right? I could imagine there are certain people on this podcast who would be those kind of strategists who would really figure out how to maximize the system. I know there's people on our team with the credit card points and stuff like that. But for me, when I see at the end of the year people needing to make status, taking flights across the world just to get those airline points, I'm like, wow, that is an incredible engagement mechanism that these airlines have over their customers in a way that, on the one hand, sure, they're doing these actions, but they're doing it of their own free volition, right? There are enjoyments in this for them. There is a reward for them, obviously, as they get the status or achieve these things. And they're not shy about it. They talk about it online. I did this mileage run and I took 15 different legs before December 31st. It's not that much different from, hey, I farmed this today and my farm has grown by 20%. People love to share the things that they enjoy. To many people, it's almost like a hobby or an identity that they start to develop, but not just with themselves, but also with the brand. I'm an Alaska person, Alaska Airlines, and that's my frequent flyer program, and this is my status on it. When you become that intertwined, that's a customer that you have for life, right? Because it's part and parcel of who they are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a few of those communities. We definitely had some credit card reward point, business class flights internationally, and now I'm addicted. But what I always find funny is that when the United subreddit, people complain. They say, this is what
Mhm.
happened. Oh, they devalued the program.
Yeah.
But nobody leaves. They don't decide, okay, I'm going to switch to a different airline. They're already bought in. They already have fond memories of it happening. And everything in retrospect is always more positive than it actually happened. And so it's just crazy that no matter how bad programs get, even Disneyland, they just keep raising prices and everybody keeps paying it. They have a lightning lane pass now
Right.
that you can
That's
ride all
insane.
of the lanes once. And I think it's like $400, $500, depending on how busy the park is. At first, when it was announced, people were like, nobody's going to buy it. And I've seen so many people talking about, okay, we bought it. This was our experience. They like to just share how they did it and be
Yeah.
a thought leader in that space and build their own community, which is so interesting to me.
If you look at the corollary, right? Customers are always going to be frustrated or disappointed or have negative feelings. But if it's part of a game structure, an actual program that they're aware of and they're working towards, they're willing to put up with much more of that quote unquote crap than if it was a one off experience and they just got pissed on a flight. They probably will never take that airline again. But if it's part of something they know they're working towards and there's variable rewards and all these game mechanisms we talked about, you're more likely to have not only more leeway, but ultimately even drive more passion from them when you are able to come through. So it is this idea of a super fan. only exists if there's levels and striations to the brand and their fanage, right? We use the term gamification or games quite a bit, but if you break that term down, it's an incentive structure. It is a program that people understand how to advance in and they know the tasks that they need to perform to do it. People are wired to do this, maybe in different ways at different levels, but everybody is wired from a fundamental level to want more, to achieve, to show off. And at the end of the day, it's not just a psychological tool. It's actually fun. People do this because it teases their own psychological needs. It's a win-win if you can implement this, going back to Timo, in an authentic way that is true to what your brand's about, what products you're trying to sell, and how you're trying to sell them, to work it into a way where people start to identify with your brand in a way that is more than just the singular product purchase itself.
I think it could extend beyond people who are already in the program, becoming a status symbol, something they want to achieve. Influencers on social media show, oh, this is my luxury flight, my private jet, my new designer purse, where normally people wouldn't see those items and desire them. So even before they're in the system, there are ways to get people to idolize you and build up that thought of your brand before they even have an interaction with you.
Yeah, social media platforms are games in of themselves, right? How many likes can I get? How many followers can I get? How visible can my post be? This kind of game structure is something you can avail yourself of, even if you don't gamify your brand yourself. That's the environment we live in today. That's the world we're already living in, where this gamification exists. I think it's incumbent, especially with the clients we work with, to be authentic about it. How can you do it in a way that feels natural, not cheesy, and get outcomes that matter as much, if not more, than just a simple sale? But if you can also use it to get a deeper understanding of your customer, to serve them better because you're able to reveal things that maybe they weren't even thinking about. We really playfully believe it can be a win-win in a way that is more than just, hey, how can I trick somebody into buying a product, right? It's much more important and impactful than that. And frankly, much more valuable to the customer than that.
It can be daunting to brands who don't look at themselves as a gamified brand yet. Besides hiring PlayAbly to build games for them so that they can get a jump start on this, what are some other things that brands could be doing on their own?
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to do is look at how your customers interact with your brand and who they are. At Playboy, we believe it's not one size fits all. You have to be very brand specific in how you approach this problem. Are there segments of your customer base that are older? How they want to interact and the types of interactions they're going to have are going to be different. I would say airline programs have a lot of these personas, which are completionists, people who, once they're exposed to something, want every step to be kind of ticked off. These are all things that can be done through surveys and a lot of analytics on your site to build this segmentation of your user. And then it's about experimentation. It's about being able to identify these groups and try different mechanisms to build little experimental pods to see what the reaction is, right? At Playboy, we do a lot of experimentation, a lot of A/B testing, a lot of trying different mechanisms because it is not one size fits all. Hey, everybody, roll out a spinner and magic happens, right? All the examples we talked about are very different. Each example was selling a different product, had a different customer base, and even with Temu, developed it over time, right? They all learned over time how to do this. If you don't have a partner who focuses on this, then I would suggest putting together a team or people with game development experience to work on that with you. Because if it's something that's an afterthought, then it's going to appear like an afterthought to the consumer. Frankly, the reception to that often isn't very positive, right? So you really want to go all in on it if it's something you believe in and you've seen the results from. All of the brands we talked about have made long-term investments into this idea and approach because they believed in it. It wasn't something that, hey, I installed an app and now my brand is gamified. I just don't see many cases where that would ever be true.
Every conference we've been to this year has had at least one talk about gamification from the big names, Walmart of the world, and it's everywhere. So if you're not thinking about it or, haven't started yet, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, especially from a practical perspective, how expensive advertising is getting, right? Like how many more brands on Shopify there are that all kind of look alike. The ability to break through that noise in an authentic manner, there are very few levers for that, right? And with gamification, if you can appeal to people's curiosity, to their intrinsic need to collect or to achieve, you can set yourself apart, not just from a brand perspective, but from a very tactical marketing perspective to break through that noise in a way that benefits your brand, not just in 2025, but for the long term. It's investments we're seeing across the board. People are talking about making now. I think every week we're seeing more brands launch games, launch apps with games in them. And we love it. We think the confluence between gaming and shopping, making it fun, as games become the dominant form of entertainment, eclipsing movies and TV, it's the mindset people are going to be in. If you can't serve that, if you can't scratch that itch, then you're going to be behind. The investment you can start with can be small, but you need to start today.
Well, thank you, John, for joining us today. There's a lot here, and I'm excited to see what the future brings for gamification. Even our own product has developed so much in the last couple of months as everyone really gets on board with it and the AI comes into it. I think there's just a lot that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the PlayAbly podcast. We'll be back next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the PlayAbly podcast. Ready to engage your customers like never before? PlayAbly turns your website into an interactive experience that drives results. Don't forget, mention the podcast during your free demo and get your first month free. Book now at playably.ai.